Welcome aboard, applicants. Let's begin with the first year law students exam, June 2015, question number 2. Now, as with all essay questions, we should begin with the call of the question. So let's read it. With what claims, if any, does Walter have against Betsy? Discuss. 2. What damages, if any, should Walter be awarded? Discuss. Okay, now we don't know exactly what they mean by claim or claims or damages, but we know it's civil. So let's take we'll read through our first read of our question to get the area of law. Now, Betsy owns a business in South City. Her friend Walter lived in Northville, some distance away. Over the years, Betsy had often excuse me, Betsy had often suggested to Walter that he move to South City and work for her. A short time ago, Walter decided to follow Betsy's suggestion. He called Betsy and asked if she was still interested in hiring him. Betsy replied, "Of course, get down here as soon as possible and we can see where you would fit in." Walter agreed and told her that he would give notice at his current job and would be in South City by the end of the month. Walter gave notice at work, excuse me, and shipped his furniture to South City at a cost of $5,000 and bought a one-way plane ticket for $250. When Walter called Betsy upon his arrival in South City, she told him that she had just lost a major customer and had to impose rigorous cost cutting. She therefore could no longer employ him. Walter tried for months to find another job in South City, but nothing was available. Walter's previous employer was willing to rehire him, so he moved back to Northville, paying another $5,000 for movers and $250 for airfare. So now we know that we're not dealing with a tort, and we're not. So therefore, we have to be dealing with a contract. Okay. So let's start answering our call to question here. Now, what claims, if any, does Walter have against Betsy? So, Walter has against Betsy, question mark. And down here we want to put Walter, see here, v. Betsy. Call number 2. What damages? Damages. Walter should be awarded. Okay. And damages is a nice way of saying remedies. So now, under Walter v. Betsy, we know our area of law is contract law, so we throw down formation of contract. So contract formation, third-party rights, covenants, conditions, excuses, discharge of the duty to perform, and we want to make sure to put down breach of contract and remedies. Now, I would say we probably could put these two underneath damages Walter should be awarded. So right here. And then, do we have any third-party rights? I didn't read any, so we can eliminate that one. So this is primarily the 3 we're having under Walter v. Betsy, and the 2 issues that we're going to have under damages Walter should be awarded. Now, let's give this a second read to issue spot. Betsy owns a business in South City. Her friend Walter lived in Northville, some distance away. Over the years, Betsy had often suggested to Walter that he move to South City and work for her. Well, right here, work for her is technically a services-based contract, so we can start right now with establishing our applicable law. And we're going to say services here. And for services, we're going to say work. But what kind of work are we dealing with here? A short time ago, Walter decided to follow Betsy's suggestion. He called Betsy and asked if she was still interested in hiring him. Betsy replied, "Of course, get down here as soon as possible. We can see where you would fit in." Walter agreed and told her that he would give notice at his current job and would be in South City by the end of the month. So we're just going to say, I believe it's just the word work. So that's where we're getting services from. Now, contract formation. Remember, contract formation of forcible contract contains valid offer acceptance consideration without applicable defenses to contract formation. Do we have an offer here? Let's take a look. Excuse me. Now, when over the years now, the facts say Betsy had often suggested to Walter that he move to South City and work for her. The suggestion that Betsy had often made to Walter concerning his moving to South City could very well be a preliminary negotiation issue. So I would definitely plug that in right in probably even before my offer. Right here, preliminary negotiation. Okay. Now up here under offer though, where is the original, or where is the offer to be found? He called Betsy and asked if she was still interested in hiring him. Well, right here, this could be still in part of that inquiry, that preliminary negotiation, so that we would tie that also to the sentence beforehand. Betsy replied, "Of course, get down here as soon as possible, and we can see where you'd fit in." Walter, oh, here it is. Here is your offer right here. So therein is our offer. I'm going to highlight it right there. It's that quotation mark, or quotation I should say. And down here under offer. Now, what are the terms? So we're talking about quantity here. What is our quantity? One job. Okay. Time for performance. Reasonable time. And I'm getting that from as soon as possible. Okay. Now, interested party. This would be Betsy and Walter. Price. Well, that hasn't actually been established yet, because she says that she would find it where he could fit in. So reasonable time, or reasonable salary, excuse me. And if that needs to be discussed further in your analysis, we could say that it's something that we can agree later. Okay, now down here under subject matter would be work again. Work, comma, job. Okay, now that's okay. So Walter agreed and told her that he would give notice at his current job and would be in South City by the end of the month. Okay, that's enough to continue writing here. So we got it. We got it. Acceptance. Do we have an? Okay. Sufficient offer. Do we have acceptance? Walter agreed. So yes, we have that. So right here. Okay. Do we have consideration? Well, the argument can be made is, what was there a bargain for exchange here? What was being bargained for? Well, a job in consideration of what? Well, if it could be argued that there really isn't sufficient consideration, we can find a consideration substitute under promissory estoppel. And this would be either as a consideration substitute or as a basis upon which we're going to further argue under remedies for reliance. Okay, promissory estoppel would save the day for consideration. Now, statute of frauds, quick and brief discussion concerning the 1-year rule. And the statute of frauds would not bar enforcement, so that we want to make sure about that. Is there any other defenses that may come in here? I don't see any. I don't see any other defenses against enforceability at this point. Okay, now down under conditions, the conditions phase. Do we have a condition precedent? I would find that we would here, because he has to move there, and there would there would be a spot where he could possibly fit in. That would be, as Betsy put it, of course, get down here as soon as possible. We could find out where you would fit in. So there, he just has to. He would satisfy his condition of traveling there, and then she would be satisfying her condition of providing him a job. So I would say condition precedent there. Now, were there any particular excuses of any parties condition? Well, right here, Walter gave notice at work and shipped his furniture to South City at a cost of $5,000 and bought a one-way plane ticket for $250. This also lends itself to further facts for promissory estoppel, the reliance aspect. Now, when Walter called Betsy upon his arrival in South City, she told him that she had just lost a major customer and had to impose rigorous cost cutting. Well, that doesn't look like an excuse of the conditions. That looks more like a discharge of the duty to perform under impossibility, primarily financial impracticability, and frustration of purpose. Well, under impossibility, is it impossible for Betsy to provide him a job? Let's take a look. Well, she had just lost a major customer and had to impose rigorous cost cutting. Does that mean that she can't objectively provide him a job? No. So right down here, though, that's not as major of an issue as the financial impracticability. This is where we would get the rigorous cost cutting is we're going to be looking at here. All right, here. Make sure I got that spelt right. Let's see. Okay. Okay. Oh, right. Excellent. Okay, rigorous cost cutting. Thank you for your patience with me. Okay. Now, under financial impracticability, is this a cost that she assumed when she made the promise to Walter that if he were in South City, that she would provide him a job? Absolutely. So this is a cost that she assumed. Now, here's the aspect too. And does she also assume market flux as here, that even though she had lost a major customer, and also on top of that had to impose rigorous cost cutting, are these things that Walter these things that would allow Betsy to argue against Walter that she should not have to provide him a job? And she's going to argue that. However, Walter is going to counter argue that with the prevailing argument, and that is that she assumed that she might lose a major customer. She assumed that she might have to go through rigorous cost cutting due to this particular loss of a major customer, and therefore these are things that she should provide him through, which we talked about through our promissory estoppel argument. Okay. Now, will she also argue too that the frustration of purpose has taken place? In other words, the reason for the reason for Walter being or the reason for Betsy providing Walter an employment has been frustrated beyond repair. And I don't see that has taken place here. There isn't anything that would make, again, Betsy's providing Walter a job, some kind of job that he as Betsy would put it, where he could fit in, get down to South City as soon as possible, and she would provide him a job where he would fit in. So I don't think that the frustration of purpose argument would allow her to not provide him a job when he got to South City. Now, with all that taken into consideration, we're now going to throw down a conclusion. We're going to ask ourselves here, what claims claims Walter has against Betsy? And I would say that there's the claim of that he has a claim against her for the enforcement of that agreement. But we're also going to ask ourselves here, it's a breach of contract issue later on. So I might actually argue that right now. So I want to throw that in there. I think I will bring up my breach of contract argument now that I've thought this through right here and put it right here. Okay, and this is where I would throw down my anticipatory repudiation. And you might be asking, where am I getting this from? And I'll show you here in just a minute. Okay, let's come up here and take a look. She therefore could no longer employ him. She therefore could no longer employ him. No longer employ him is where we get our anticipatory repudiation from. Okay, that she wasn't going to provide him a job before the time for performance was due, and therefore he can consider the contract as terminated, suspend his performance, and bring suit immediately. Okay, and in that case, that goes right into the breach of contract. Now we got to ask ourselves here, common law has substantial performance as a way to measure its breach. Has Betsy received any particular benefit, or has Walter received any benefit from Betsy? Neither party has performed except for Walter's reliance, which we will talk about later, and therefore now, and the next paragraph actually, Walter tried for 2 months to find another job in South City, but nothing was available. This goes to remedies later on. Walter's previous employer was willing to rehire him, so he moved back to Northville, paying another $5,000 for movers and $250 for airfare. Still, further facts supporting the reliance in promissory estoppel. But now, back to our question. Has there been any particular substantial performance by either party? And I would say no, except again for Walter's reliance. So I would say there's a material breach here. Okay, now that we've established that there's a breach, I think the claim that Walter can bring against Betsy would be the breach of contract claim. Okay, now under remedies, this would be the damages Walter should be awarded for his breach of contract claim. Under here, we're going to look to see, has he mitigated his damages? And we're going to look to see mitigation of damages. Any particular expectation? Expectation damages. Obviously, we've been talking about this. Reliance damages, and then consequential damages. Hadley v. Baxendale. Okay. Then we're going to throw in a quick little incidental damages argument. We wouldn't throw in specific performance because maybe a quick little ditty, but it would be immediately defeated because this is an employment contract. Not enforceable due to employment contract. Okay. And then we would throw in a quick little conclusion down here. But now let's talk about, has he mitigated his damages? Up here. Right here. Walter tried for 2 months to find another job in South City, but nothing was available. Let's throw that in there. Okay. Tried for 2 months to find employment. Okay. Now, expectation damages, that would be the value of his bargain for exchange, or expected profit as employment for how long? Well, that would most likely be maybe for those 2 months that he lost as a result of not being employed. That could possibly be, this would be, according to his contract, nothing was actually drafted in terms of what he would receive in terms of a wage, but whatever he would receive during the time that he was mitigating his damages, possibly, that's kind of a weak argument. Let me rephrase that. Whatever reasonable value that he would have in terms of his expected profit under the contract, so the contract, whatever that would be concerning Betsy, whatever job Betsy would have provided him, that's what he would have been able to recover. For how long? That's the problem here. We just don't know how long the duration of the employment was. So that's why even though he would be able to argue it, I just don't know if he would be able to win, because there really isn't a lot of a certainty aspect. It might be too speculative. The reliance damages, though, is his winning argument, which would be the cost of travel, which we're going to say was $10,000 or $10,500, which is the cost to travel down 5,200 and cost to travel back 5,200. Sorry, 5,250, and then cost to travel back 5,250 for a grand total of 10,500. Consequential damages, I don't think would be awarded here, because it wasn't foreseeable at the time of contract formation that he would incur any particular damage. The 2 months. You think it would be the 2 months? The problem with the 2 months in terms of consequentials would be the result, or would be because the foreseeability aspect. Neither party contemplated time of contract formation that during those 2 months that he would incur any particular damage as a result of Betsy's breach. So I can see where you're talking about for the 2 months. Very good, though. But that would be for tried for 2 months to mitigate. He had to look for a job he had to look for 2 months for a job. Yeah, how you would say that would be consequential? Is that what you'd consider consequential? Okay. Reliance damages. Okay. Okay. I see what you're saying. Very, very good. 2 months. He was not employed. Okay. Very good argument. Very good. So it's not only the cost of travel 10,500, but it's also the 2 months he was not employed. And how would we know that? Because the facts say right here, they tried for 2 months to find another job, but nothing was available. Thankfully, his previous employer was willing to hire him back, so he moved back to Northville. So it would be measured by whatever the value of 2 months of his previous employment would have been for him. Okay, now, and that would be plus the 10,500 cost of travel reliance. Okay. And like we said, specific performance would not be awarded here because it's not enforceable due to the employment contract and the 13th Amendment prohibition against indentured servitude. And now, the conclusion, we're going to say what damages. Because he mitigated his damages, it would be most likely he'd be awarded with the reliance damages, and any particular damages as a result of consequential or incidental, if the court does see any, which I think it's more going to just be more along the lines of incidental damages, and that would be it. That'd be how we would wrap this up. So thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you had a great time going over this question, and I want to put a shout out to Chess Cruncher TV. Keep chess crunching, Chess Cruncher. I want to put a shout out to my Amazon Kindle book, Battling the Big Bad Baby Bar, Essay Basics. Thank you again for tuning in, and God bless.